And we've just seen the highlights from the Mvskoke March last week, a historic event, our Mvskoke Nation Youth Council. I want to take just a minute and say also the Mvskoke Nation Youth Council named the Youth Council of the Year by the Unity Conference there. So big congratulations to all of them. It's a great thing that they were doing this year. It's in their first year of the Youth Council, so great job by them. And with putting together the Mvskoke March, it was a really, really big event, and was so glad to be there, and was so glad to meet our guest in studio now, Miss Cierra Fields. And Cierra was a big part of the Mvskoke March this year, really a big part of teen dating violence awareness in general. And Cierra, I want to thank you first for coming into the studio and being with us here on Native News Today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, one of the things that you did as part of the Mvskoke March there was you got up at the House of Representatives and told your story. And just share that story with us now, and why you became involved in things like this.
Well, my story is that while I was at a youth summit for Native youth, I was sexually assaulted when I was 15. And I was always passionate about teen dating violence, domestic abuse, and sexual violence towards Native women, but I never thought I'd be one of the women, the 1 in 3, yet I did become part of the statistic. And I had my year of mourning, I cut my hair, and then afterwards I decided I wanted to help. I wanted to speak out and give Native women a voice. So that's why I wanted to help out with the Mvskoke March that y'all all did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what was it, I think, Cierra, that for you that, of course, you go through like these stages, like you said, where you mourned and then you became empowered, and it was like, I'm not going to let it be something that I'm a victim of, but I'm going to let it become something that pushes me to an active role. But what was that like for you to go through those stages? I mean, do you understand when they say what you have to go through whenever something happens to you like that?
For me personally, the mourning and the self-blaming stage lasted only about 6 hours, and then I got extremely angry at the situation, at what happened, at how unfair it was. I had only been 15 for a month. He was 18 turning 19. He was a man, I was a child. And so for me, it lingered. I was very angry. I took it out on others, which I regret doing that, but that's a very common stage for assault victims. And then afterwards, I kind of mellowed down, and then I started talking to friends, family, and I realized almost all women, and even the men, all had a story similar to mine.
And I think that, you know, we see so many statistics, you know, and studies and PSAs and whatnot. I imagine it's very much more of when it actually happens to you, it becomes much more real than just statistics and papers and things like that. So do you think that's helped you be able to now, when you go and speak, give a realness to that?
Yes, I also talk about cancer awareness, and it's different when you're a youth talking to other youth versus an adult talking to the youth about all these things. When you can relate to the subject and you can relate to your peers, you can be more passionate, and you're not just reading the statistics, you're not just reading the pages that are laid out. You speak from your heart and from experience. So I believe it has helped me, and it's helped me connect to other victims as well and have helped them with what they're going through.
Now, you're a citizen of the Cherokee Nation and from over around Fort Gibson, but you travel a lot to different places to talk and speak. The Mvskoke March isn't your only one. Talk about some of the places that you've been and some of the things that you do. Well,
I have gone to NCAI. I was on their youth commission when they were in Alaska about 2 years ago, well, a year ago. And so I was in Alaska for a week there. I sat at all the roundtables they had, their discussions, and with the Data Institute with Malia Gallegos. She was the head of it, who we were under her. So we helped her gather data while we were there. I went to the United State of Women, which the Obama administration put on, and I was one of the 8 spotlighted change makers, and I was also the youngest for my work in Indian country. And then I went to the United Nations for a month in New York with Oh gosh. But I was there talking about Native women and our experiences because it was a council on women and how things were and how things were developing in countries all across the world.
Wow. It's a lot of places and a lot of things to see, and a lot of people reached with your story, I imagine. I mean, we were just there for a few minutes, and I remember turning to Devaney thinking, you know, what a powerful story this is, very eloquent, and seemed to be somebody that could reach your peers. Have you had a lot of girls come to you and say, hey, I went through the same thing and I never would have said anything. You made me feel comfortable about it anyway?
Sadly, yes. I've had dozens of young women come to me. And not just young women, old women, middle-aged women, elders even, who said I never had the chance to speak up.
Why do you think it is that they don't want to speak up? I mean, can you give us some personal experience from maybe a feeling of why that you would be quiet about it?
Personally, I actually didn't want to report what happened to me. It was my roommate who told our advisor, who made me report. It's a feeling of shame and violation. You don't want to acknowledge that it happened. You want to just wash away everything and lay down and just pretend it never happened. You don't want to face. Getting the rape kit done makes it real in a way. When they make you retell the story again and again and again, you kind of can't pretend. When you go on trial, you can't pretend. So in a way, a lot of victims don't want to go through that. They don't want to have to relive their trauma over and over.
What's the best way, you think, to get past that, though, that not wanting to relive it? I mean, do you have to come to a point to where you say, this will keep happening again, that person will keep doing it again unless I say something? Do you get empowered that way?
Yes,
Okay.
That actually really helped me because when I came forward with my rape kit and I identified my rapist, they were actually able to find 6 other unsolved rape kits and link it back to him. So I was his 7th victim. Most of them were also other Native women. And so for me, I knew because he hasn't served jail time, but he's on 10 years probation and he's forever marked as a child sexual offender and a sexual predator. So in a way, I know he's registered, and if anything happens again, he will be caught. Other girls will be protected because I came forward.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful, testimonial to be able to make that much of a difference. And I'm glad that you're doing it on a national scale too. Cierra, can we take a quick break? Will you come back with us real quick?
Yes.
All right, great. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with Cierra in studio. And welcome back to the show, and still in studio here now with Cierra Fields. And Cierra, we've been talking about your story. We've been talking about where you've come since that time and what you've done. But we also touched on some of the statistics about specifically this happening to Native women. And I think that's what you've really, concerned your area of focus on, is the fact that it's in such high numbers. And we talked a little bit off camera about why this is happening to Native women, but I think we had discussed in some of the, communal people, we all know each other, things like that. Is that something you're seeing too?
Oh yes, it's a very, very common thing within tribal nations. Like I've said, they think the closer for our sexual assault rates are 2 out of 3 women will be sexually assaulted, not just 1 out of 3. And they think it's actually that high because so many women will not report within tribal nations, because so many nations are so small, everybody knows everybody, and your rapist might be related to somebody in power, because everybody's cousins.
Right. And I think your actual attacker was actually from a reservation.
Yes.
And had the resources actually to be protected.
Yes, his father was their co-chief, I believe, or co-governor, whatever their word for it is. And then his aunt was their attorney general. And so they were paying for his attorney, and they were refusing to turn him over to get DNA testing. The BIA actually had to get involved to get his DNA testing done.
So now we're to the point to where we're talking about it more. We have more advocacy. You're seeing things like the Mvskoke March, the youth taking part in these things, but also the tribal nations. You know, here at Mvskoke Creek Nation, we have a Warriors Honor Women group combating domestic and sexual assault. We have a family violence prevention program that works as advocates to any woman that is being abused or anything like that. White, red, yellow, whatever, you know, and so we're putting these things into motion. We're seeing advocacy, but also resources too. You actually were able to take part in a program and in a place that actually makes it easier, makes it a little bit smoother for you to go to someone to have them walk you through the process.
Yes, Cherokee Nation has One Fire Victim Service. They actually helped me throughout my process. I had a rape advocate with me when I had to give my testimony, and the officer, when I had to give my other testimony to the officers to tell them the first time, I also had my advocates with me there. They also have a rape room in Hastings, which is our hospital we have in Cherokee Nation with IHS. And the women actually don't have to go through the emergency room and wait and kind of air out all their dirty business. They just call One Fire Services, and the advocates will meet them at the hospital. They'll take them to the suite, and they will stay with them, get them water, talk to them, and help them throughout the entire process to make it as calming and as they can, and so it isn't any more traumatic than what they've just been through.
And that's open to all women as well.
Yes, all women.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so important now is that tribes, as we become more fortified players in the grand scheme of things in our state. You know, we always talk about the money from the casinos that go to the state that help it as well. I think it's important that we be seen as nations that are thriving and helping out the communities that we share as well. And I think that's just a great thing that they're doing that is involved in that. But also you, speaking of being involved, my goodness, you don't just do this, but you also, I understand, do a lot of things for cancer awareness. Can you talk about some of that as well?
I was actually born with my type of cancer, congenital melanoma, because my mom had a cancer on her wrist, and then when she was pregnant with me, and she just got it removed. I was born, it looked like a port wine stain stamp on the back of my head when I was a baby. The doctors just always assumed it was a birthmark. It wasn't until I was 5 where I got a tick bite on the back of my head, and I wanted to feel like a big kid. And so I took the tick off by myself, left the head in because I refused to let my mother do it. And it was very itchy and scratchy, and so I was scratching it during school and got blood everywhere. And like most public schools, they have a no blood policy. So I went to my nurse, she checked it out, and then she called my mom. She said, "Terry, I think your kid has cancer." And of course my mom didn't want to believe it. She was actually doing her internship. She's a speech pathologist. And so she was like, "You're just a public school nurse. You can't say that kind of stuff." And so she got my grandma to go down to the school to pick me up. And she's like, "That lady can't say that. It's against her contract." And so she thought we'd just take me to my normal doctor, but there had been a flu outbreak. So he was busy. So we went to Hastings, went to my asthma specialist. He's like, "Oh, I've done my time with the old ladies. I know what melanoma looks like." And when we got there, within an hour, the St. Francis's Children's Hospital was on their way with their oncology. And he told my mom if she left Tulsa at that time, she would get to the hospital about the same time they did, and that I did have cancer. My type of melanoma, it usually doesn't show up till puberty. They don't know how or why, but something with that tick made it start changing. It got the turtle shell appearance is what we call it, where it looks like it's all broken up like a turtle shell and it starts growing. And so within 5 days, and if you've been to Indian Health, you know how long they take, especially back then. But within 5 days, on my birthday actually, I had surgery to remove it. It was stage 2 and still growing, so they had to take out a chunk where it was and then 3 lymph nodes in the back of my neck. And I was cancer-free for 9, almost 10 years when I had a freckle on my leg that started changing. We did a punch biopsy, and thank God that was all I needed, but it was stage 1 turning into stage 2 melanoma. So any freckle I have has a 50% chance of turning randomly into melanoma. And so because of that, I worked with Cherokee Nation's cancer prevention program, And I went with Greg Bilby talking all around Cherokee Nation about my story, telling kids to not use tanning beds and to properly wear sunscreen and appropriate clothing during the summer.
Great. And how is it now? Is everything good?
Oh yeah, it's been good. I've been cancer-free for about 5 years.
Wonderful.
Oh, 4 years now, yeah.
Awesome. And I think I may have seen you in like some princess wear. Are you also royalty?
Yes, I've been every age division of our Little Miss.
Oh yeah.
And then I have got first runner-up for Junior Miss twice. And then I was the Belle Powwow Princess, their senior princess.
Hey, I tell you what, if I'm ever having a bad day, I'm just going to think about you and how strong you are and how much that you've overcome in your life and what a story it is. So,
Thank you.
Cierra, I really appreciate you coming in with us today. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us or anything you have coming up that you'd like people to look out for or see out there in the general public?
I just want to tell those who have been sexually assaulted or abused or even just domestic abuse victims, I believe you. You didn't deserve what has happened or what is happening to you. You didn't ask for it, and nothing you did is a reason to why it happened. You're still loved and valid, and there are people here for you.
And I want to tell you the same thing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, and we really appreciate you. And like I said, you're an incredible example for our youth.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.